that ultimately from 1975 to 1980 birthed the current framework here in Maine. The federal Maine Indian Claims Settlement Act of 1980 and the Maine state law, the Maine Implementing Act of the same year. This framework, just like the framework of federal Indian law, is bereft of any human rights discourse. It didn't address the human rights of Maine Indians, but rather it sought to end that crisis, to settle a land claims dispute. In that, Maine tried to preserve as much as of its hegemony over the tribes and its privileges that it had acquired during the era of colonization as possible, to continue that relationship into the present, to dominate the tribes, to narrowly limit their right of self-government, their ability to regulate resources, to narrowly define their rights, and all of this being upheld by the court decisions that have interpreted that legal framework. At the end of this modern era, in the year 2007, the work group, the Tribal State Work Group, issued its final report to the legislature. It acknowledged an ugly history here of colonization. It acknowledged the fact that the Indians believe that this framework, as it has been implemented and interpreted, is oppressive and unjust. It found that significant disparities continue to exist here in this state that raise questions of political and social justice. The impact, if this is fully implemented, as I close, would be to strip away the dark side of federal Indian law, and it would reaffirm the very best in the American legal culture as it pertains to Indian people, reaffirm the self-determination approach, and significantly reform and strengthen and make our laws and policies more appropriate in a post-colonial world. It will afford an answer to the perplexing political problem about what is the best way to incorporate Indians into our mainstream culture here. We've zigzagged on it. We've gone to termination, assimilation, removal, warfare, subjugation, self-determination, and we've zigzagged between these policies and trying to find the right way to incorporate Native people ever since we began colonizing them. This provides the appropriate way to incorporate indigenous peoples with their human rights intact on a consensual basis, which is important to free and democratic societies. It gives us a roadmap, as well as a roadmap to gauge the adequacy of our existing framework. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity, and just pose this challenge to you, so that we can together, all of us, march into this new human rights framework so that we might all stand in the light of justice together. And why should we act? Why should we try to do that? Our tribal people are very busy on day-to-day needs. You all are very busy on whatever you're doing, and your jobs are all important and worthwhile activities that command your attention. Why should we drop everything? So I'll just leave you with the need to heal the wounds of the past, and say to you that, as by way of a philosophy, our human race, from the very first day all the way to the present history, long history, can be looked at through the lens of historical trauma, man's inhumanity to man. We can see wars, plagues, invasion, famine, genocide, a long history of calamity. And during that period, we've also evolved another way, a way of trying to heal wounds that we have committed, wrongs that we have committed onto other people, to try to heal it. You got two alternatives. You can try to heal a wound from a past that has driven you apart, or you can not heal it. And you can take the low road of revenge, of hatred, of being mired in injustice, frozen in an age of injustice, or you can try to heal it. And our wisdom traditions that have evolved from time immemorial, way back in the dawn of time, and found embedded in all of the world religions, exhort us to try to heal the wounds of the past, and they teach us how to do it. It's not rocket science. And it is all of our highest traditions known to man teach us there's 5 steps here. The first is that an injury has taken place. And certainly we see that here. We have a legacy of conquest that is still seen and felt today. Second step is the person who committed the wrong or harmed another or their forebears has to go to the person that you injured and apologize and ask for forgiveness. It's hard to do. That step is hard to do because when you have harmed someone, you don't want to apologize to them. You don't want to humble yourself. You don't want to truth tell and admit that you actually committed a wrong. And above all, you can't go to someone that you've injured on bended knee and humble yourself, prostrate yourself, and sincerely ask for forgiveness. We often hold those who we have disenfranchised in contempt. We hold them up to ridicule. It's unthinkable to go to them and ask them to forgive us. Very hard step to do. But all of our wisdom traditions teach us that that's what we got to do. That will basically relieve us of our guilt. That takes us and it shifts the burden to the third step. The person that has been wronged or the community that has been wronged has been the burden of accepting the apology and actually forgiving those who have trespassed against us. And that's hard to do also. It's a hard step to take. But Jesus said, we got to forgive those who have trespassed against us. That's a cardinal principle that's found in all of our wisdom traditions. Some victimized communities, they can't find it in themselves to actually forgive. But the strong can forgive. And I have every reason to believe that our Native people are a strong people.